before waiting for them to go, let's just talk about, I guess, the slight differences between their two deck lists. So, as we can see, johnkkez is running 4 Know Thy Enemies and 2 Decode Techniques in the main, as opposed to Applechips' 4 Edict of Makars and 2 Know Thy Enemies. Now, while the Know Thy Enemy is very potent, especially if it drags out into the late game, alongside the Decode Technique to snipe the Speaking Circle out of the out of Applechips' market, Edict of Makar is very good in this match. I feel like being able to answer stuff like even a buffed Lineaxe or a buffed Deathwing for just 1 mana is incredibly efficient. In terms of the market, we see that the Applechips is running the Speaking Circle, which could be very helpful against the 4 Lord Slayer's Towers that both decks are running, whereas johnkkez has opted for their color loser in the market instead with the Edict of Shav. I I mean, it really does depend on what kind of draws that both players has, whether the more aggressive draw build out of Applechips is able to just overwhelm johnkkez. Okay, so we have an exploit.
Exploit here. So Applechips has a lot going on. johnkkez on the other side has a Suffocate, a Know Thy Enemy, and a Linux Molten Wing. So we're gonna see they're actually gonna pass here. Keep that Deathwing going. Applechips with a ton to work with here. Got a lot of options here. So with 4, if they want to be power efficient, you could exploit plus Stonehammer.
Issue with the Stonehammer here is obviously there is an opposing flying block.
Right. Yeah, that's not
And
unless you have a plan for getting rid of that
yeah,
Deathwing. Just firing out a Stonehammer into a 2/3 lifesteal Death Touch. Probably not the best, but that's an option there. Isno Duranite, thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome everybody again. This is round 4 between Applechips and johnkkez. These are the 2-1 players fighting for a top 4 slot today.
welcome.
Now, interesting. So, why just as a player, why did johnkkez choose not to deploy? Oh, never mind. I answered my own question. For those who were wondering, just like I did, johnkkez did not deploy the Molten Wing last turn because if you look, they do not have 2 fire influence. So playing a three faction deck doesn't actually come up as much as you'd think. This deck is usually pretty smooth, but not having fire influence prevented johnkkez from playing out that Molten Wing. So unfortunately, had to pass, not doing anything. And it looks like Applechips have to restart. That's a bummer. So I think maybe hopefully just restart their computer and come back to the match. So and we can hang out here for a moment. If that's a quick restart, we'll just talk. We'll just stay here. So yeah, so let's talk about influence for a little bit. So influence can be punishing depending on it. This Valkyrie deck, they have a lot of duels, so they have plenty of dual power to be able to hit all across factions, and the faction requirements aren't so tough in the deck that you need quadruple. You're not talking 4, 5, 6 influence for the most part. So so it doesn't come up that often, but you always have to be wary in a 3 faction deck that you could run into situations like this. It might punish johnkkez here. Like, not being able to deploy anything on your turn 4 is a really big punishment.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing to keep in mind here is that you have dual faction cards with Lineaxe and the Reappropriator with double fire and double shadow, respectively. But your Sileces, your Rakano, and your Archenport Sileces overlap in Justice, which is why it was much. For those who were around during old Expedition, you saw this deck play a lot of Rolands because honestly, it was fairly easy for them to get the 4 Justice for Roland. But if you don't have your overlapping color in, well, what your Sileces overlap in, sorry, your overlapping faction in what your Sileces overlap in, it may be a little bit trickier to get the double influence that you need for your not really off, like slightly off faction uh double influence cards. And here, the top deck Edict of Makar. Wow, the luck.
That's huge.
But yep, here probably see a suffocate in exploit. Yep, makes sense.
Yep. So
Yep.
Applechips able to tear apart johnkkz's hand and deploy out their threats. Now johnkkz was able to draw that reappropriator here, which is a pretty good draw here. Going to be able to
Yep.
eat that Stonehammer. But that Know Thy Enemy, getting rid of that's pretty good too.
Okay, so opting not to
Yeah,
trade the
interesting. I
regen.
didn't want to trade the regen for the Stonehammer.
I
Here comes
think
the
they're
silencing.
concerned about a possible, I suppose, weapon
Mhm.
out of line X because, for example, ding damage, for example, a Valkyrie Halberd in that position. If you blocked, then you'd be susceptible to the damage from uh, the line X trigger, and then they just simply pluck off your Battlemaster Cataxius with the Halberd,
Huge draw
which I
there. So
believe
suffocate off the
both.
top there for Applechips off of so you gotta love the
Ooh,
power of the Silexes here. Silex into Treasure Trove into Suffocate. turns your
perfect.
extra power into a really relevant card here. And now Applechips looking across saying, well, you got a lot of options here. Do you just take out the reappropriator here? You've got a flying board. Seems like a good option, and it gets past the regen.
Yeah, I think that's. Sorry, I'm just pondering johnkkz's market for a moment. I Yeah, I think I like taking out the reappropriator here because even if they grab what is probably their best option in a Wyatt's Junkyard or a Pyrotech Explosion, they're still kind of behind on. Okay, so going for the post combat. Ooh, going for the suffocate on the grafter instead, not denying johnkkz yet option.
Oh,
Ooh,
Lord Stairs Tower
I
off the
literally
top.
can't speak fast enough when it's happening. A warped Lord
Ooh,
Stairs Tower is
and that's a
exactly.
change shift in momentum there. Applechips was surely in the driver's seat, but now that Warp Lord Sarah Tower is going to get so much value and then permanent value on shrinking all of Applechips' units. That was brutal. Applechips going to have a warp of their own, warping off Cataxius here, but a little bit less impactful than the tower there.
Not Stonehammer, not really what you're looking for
Yeah,
here
not
either,
great
since they
there.
can simply just jump.
Right, here comes that Ironclad Oath. And then a halberd off the top after that. A couple of really huge draws here for johnkkz. That's going to take out the Molten Wing. And johnkkz attacking with a 7-8. Going to put Applechips down to 16.
However, there's not, and that's going to be a well, that's going to be a fulfilled site's agenda, and that Rota is going to get very out of hand very quickly, considering that neither player really has. Well, yeah, considering that Applechips doesn't have a lot of good answers for that Rota outside of the main deck Edict of Makar.
Exploit's
Exploit.
going to miss, but give him a plunder here. There's that reappropriator. Okay. And
Still
that halberd
fantastic.
going to take out another unit. John can just sit here picking off units with this halberd.
Indeed. They've all been shrunk, I think. Yeah, Applechips has to draw something here, otherwise the writing is going to. Ooh, and that is not what
That's
they were
not
looking
it.
for. The writing's
Yeah.
probably on the wall here.
Wow.
Yep,
What a
and that's
huge
it.
tower that was. Do you remember before that tower, Applechips had all three flying units, and John really didn't have much going on their side, and how quickly the tables turned there. Wow. Well played there by John.
Ripping off that crucial card, especially when both players are in what is essentially top deck mode.
Mhm. We talk about that warp value there and
Incredibly impactful.
how impactful that warp value can be with having those Valkyries. We saw it right there. I didn't have to wait a turn to play that as well. Huge turn there, and then follow up that with I forget what came right after the tower, but another huge draw after the tower as well. Well played. So John's gonna take that one. Gonna take game one. See if there's any results while we're waiting for the players to get into game two here. Let's see if there's any results from around the rest of the room. Right. Players in for game two. So John K, one win away from having a really solid shot. Yurik, you and Otto in the 3-0 match. They are tied at one game apiece going into game three.
Auto also on what I believe is Overloader combo.
Yes, I
Proof
believe.
that you can actually do well with
Yeah,
this deck.
the
And
Overloader combo, the first game, the first tournament didn't do super well, but so far it's been two 3-0 players today. It's pretty nice. All right, John's
ooh,
gonna fire off that first exploit. Gonna take the Edict of Makar away from Applechips. Applechips got those 2 Death Wings, but then 4 power, 6 total power, and 2 Death Wings. Thankfully, one of those is a Silex. 2 of those now a Silex, but that's a lot of power to draw for this Valkyries deck.
okay. Fortunately, the has the influence to be able to trigger the Sileces.
Here's that.
Ooh,
Here's that
okay.
Halberd.
Valkyrie Harbor.
Plus a Suffocate. Okay. Gonna put Applechips down to 20. Applechips Deathwing in hand and drew a Reappropriator off the top there.
It's nice, but unfortunately, after the Cataxius has been buffed, will not be able to pick off the Cataxius. Ooh. Was that?
Still attacked anyway. Maybe they didn't see the buff. I'm not sure. I missed something there, but that did the 3 damage to the Cataxius, but did not kill it there. So maybe just a little miss there. Another their own Halberd off the top here. That's going to be able to take care of that Deathwing. And a Silex gonna get a new card for good value. Ooh, there's a Molten Wing. Oh, a Molten Wing and a Cataxius off the top as well. So good turn up coming next turn for Applechips, but know thy enemy and Reappropriator in hand for John.
Appropriator stealing, just trading halberds back and forth here, really, to knock off the regen off the opposing reappropriator. Not bad at all, actually. Not bad at all.
John's gonna draw a Silex for hand. Gonna start with that. I'm gonna just start getting some treasure troves here. Now, notably, John has a Reappropriator in hand, but no double shadow. They did just draw a shadow off the top though, so John can get his second shadow for Reappropriator next turn. Ooh, look at this tower off the top for Applechips, and here comes the tower.
Oh, slam it! Slam it! Yes, the warp. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of Valkyrie warp cards in a row.
It is. They can't. Unfortunately, can't do anything with this heavy artillery off top, but that was huge. Exactly what John did to Applechips in game 1. Applechips has given it right back this game. That warp tower plus having the Halberd, getting some 1/1s out.
Indeed.
Basically shut off that Cataxius too.
True.
John finds their second shadow to get the Reappropriator. Gonna steal that weapon back. Take out Applechips' Reappropriator.
Here. Yeah, the Linex plus the heavy artillery is quite the potent combo.
There is. You do have the regen. Or do we still have the regen on the? Yes. Still have the regen on the Reappropriator. Here comes the Linex and the heavy artillery. Huge combo. Hit the regen and take out the unit.
Ooh.
John with a Deathwing off the top. John still has the Know Thy Enemy, though. That's pretty nice. Take care of your 2 1/1s and get a Linex of your own.
Do they happen to have a decruise technique in hand?
They do not. Nice. They've got a Deathwing and a Treasure Trove.
Hopefully they can draw into one. Otherwise, it's... Oh my god.
Another tower. A second tower warped off the top. Literally the turn after ultimating, they're able to get the second one.
Oh my god. What is that? That's, what, 5 Valkyrie warp cards in a row?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That is unreal. And if you ever need the reason of why this deck is strong or why that tower is so powerful, you just saw it right there. Double warp value off of it, completely turning the tides in this game. We saw it in game 1, and we see it here again in game 2. And now johnkkez, I mean, they have plays, they have a Deathwing and Reappropriator, but just the amount of value that Applechips is getting every single turn is just insane right now.
Absolutely. Okay, a warped heavy artillery is nice. Going to be able to block off the opposing line. Oh, of course. Go for the tower and then hit the rota.
Good. A good
Ooh,
turnaround too. Okay.
not going for the rota here.
Going for the Rota. Hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that play because now they either have to chump with a line axe, which
Right.
is no either way. Sorry, either way, their heavy artillery is just dead
Yeah,
here.
Hillary is dead either way because of the 1-1. So I guess John gets a free block on the 1-1, which they don't take. I guess avoiding the avoiding the 5 power weapon.
Indeed.
Rustcrafter is gonna go ahead and grab
Ooh, yep.
explosion here, and then followed up with a Deathwing.
With enough power to amplify to a lethal 8 damage is the important part here.
That's a good point. Yeah, they can just Applechips can go face with this explosion with Amplify. You're right. Good catch, Stormguard. That's why you're top of the leaderboard. Things like that, picking up on the little details. Interesting turn down for John there.
I mean,
That's
I
good, but
assume
that
they
doesn't.
suspect the pyrotech,
Yeah,
but
that doesn't save them though.
unfortunately,
Cute, but it doesn't save them. It's nice style points though. All right, Applechips is going to take that one, and we're going to go to game 3. This is exciting. The Valkyrie Mirror. I like that this is I like the grindy mirror match that also doesn't like take a lot of time. Like it's still a pretty fast deck, and obviously these players are very skilled, and so they can play the deck fairly quickly. But I like that this is about board presence and attacking and dealing damage, and you've got a mid-range mirror that's not about just who can last longer to the end of the game, right? I like that. I like that.
absolutely.
While they're getting set up. Again, not guaranteed that the winner of this match makes top 4, but they set themselves up in really good position to do so. See if we have any results from around. Looks like Yurik Yu took it 2-1 over Otto, which means Yurik Yu is going to start 4-0. That's a pretty spot. They're going to have the 1 spot in the top 4. Very impressive showing today by Yurik Yu. We've talked about how they've gotten their points the hard way by playing in every single tournament so far. But today, getting the points the better way, they start off 4-0. Very nice, very well done by Yurik Yu. They're going to make some moves today, moving up that leaderboard a little bit further. See if they can bring home a trophy today. All right, here we go. Time for Game 3, Round 4, Applechips versus johnkkez. Winner of this goes to 3-1 with good tiebreakers.
I like this hand from Applechips. It's got some interaction for early Deathwings, Reappropriators, what have you, and a unit out of Battlemaster Cataxius.
Mm-hmm.
Really looking for perhaps like a lot like relic weapon, either the halberd or the heavy artillery here, just to capitalize off that Cataxius.
Definitely.
Yeah, still solid.
John looking at a hand of 3 power, an Exploit, a Suffocate, a Stonehammer, a Cataxius, and a Know Thy Enemy. So some good cheap cards here for John. Start off with the Exploit. Fine trade there. I'm going to trade my... you went down in power, but you got a Plunder out of it and took out a key removal spell. So John's happy with that play. But Applechips going to top deck their own and fire it back.
Stonehammer. Interesting.
Take the Stonehammer. Then they're going to swap a power into a treasure trove here and hit for 2.
Okay. There's some Cataxius, but that's going to get probably immediately suffocated.
Especially when you draw the second
one.
one.
Yeah.
Start off okay. Start with that, and here comes the Rustcrafter. I assume you just take care of that now. I guess drawing the Rustcrafter, you could wait if you're Applechips and play out the Grafter first, but I assume you just take out that Cataxius while you can.
In case they do have like a heavy artillery or something like that that buffs the Cataxius and makes it harder for you to deal with the Cataxius now.
Mm-hmm.
Just suffocate.
Suffocate and fire off with the
Save
Rust
wave.
Crafter. So now players are a little empty-handed here. John has a Rust Crafter of their own with an exploit, and Applechips has the Suffocate. So let's see who can draw some action. But they're actually going to go. They're going to grab Wyatt's Junkyard here. That's a way to put some
I
pressure
think
on.
in this position, because neither player really has much going on. I mean, the benefit to the Ambition Vox deck is that you get all of the value off the top of your deck. So you don't necessarily need to have a lot of cards in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the Wyatt's Junkyard here, Applechips isn't really applying a lot of pressure. They're still both at fairly healthy life totals, both over 20. So the incidental chars to your own face from the Wyatt's Junkyard aren't that good. And you have targets for the chemical rounds, probably have targets for the treachery. Yeah, I think it's a very good pull from johnkkez here.
Definitely. Both of these players would prefer to have Valkyries out so they could get more of that warp value, of course, the Rust Crafter not being a Valkyrie. But you take what you have here.
It is a Valkyrie. Yeah. Rust Crafter is a Valkyrie.
My mistake. I'm sorry. It is a Valkyrie. That's why you don't judge cards by art, but you're right. It is a Valkyrie. I'm so used to people just sticking a Vine Grafter in every single Shadow deck with nothing to do with Mandrakes.
Taking the Rust Crafter not only for the Valkyrie War, but also what's the word? Pyrotech. Really, really good card against Speaking Circle. And amongst other things, of course.
All right, here comes another exploit. Gonna empty out Applechips' hand.
Alex here is fantastic. Is Applechips going to get a junkyard of their own? Is the question. Sid opts to just deploy the line axe.
The double line axe here.
Air superiority.
All right, Halberd off the top. Definitely... All right, that's pretty good here. That's going to take out one of those line axes.
Yeah, I think they realized that, unfortunately, johnkkez realizes, unfortunately, they won't be able to get a lot of value off the junkyard, and they might be better off waiting for the halberd to actually go to the yard so that they can recur it with a smuggler stash.
Mm-hmm. All right, here comes that Wyatt's Junkyard. We're gonna get smuggler stash here.
Yep.
Gonna get back a Stonehammer and a Cataxius and an Inquisitor's Halberd. Nice. Ooh, a lot of value off that one card. I mean, think about it. You had so much value. 3 cards off of... You drew 3 cards off of one chapter of of the Wyatt's Junkyard. Pretty nice.
I guess they know better than I do. I'm not sure if you played out the power in johnkkez position, because you still have enough power to deploy most of your threats next turn, and it might be better saved to plunder away with the Passionate Stonehammer. Here, yep.
Well, Chip's gonna go face, gonna ignore the junkyard, deal 3 damage to the face, lay out that second line axe, got Pyrotech Explosion in hand.
Pulling, yep, chemical rounds here to shrink one, and yep, Passionate Stonehammer into Halberd, probably to pick off the larger.
Yeah, you see a Deathwing on top, or unfortunately you're not going to get that warp value there, but you are going to put that Deathwing on top and get the Halberd this turn. That's pretty good. johnkkez, nice turn there with that junkyard. That was huge. Trying to turn the tables on Applechips here. Applechips was trying to push through some damage, but is not really going to be able to here. Getting rid of their units, shrinking their other units. You've got the explosion. That'll take care of the Halberd, but John is now at 8 with an active sight, and Applechips is down to a treasure trove in hand.
I think one thing John really needs to keep in, need sort of, the Wyatt's Junkyard right now, especially considering how low everyone both their life totals are, can actually start hurting quite a bit. Although once the agenda is fulfilled, that Wyatt will
That's a
rot
good
away.
point. Yeah, they are down to 6 now. They have the Deathwing to gain a little bit back, but you're right. That damage could definitely mean something. That's a good point. I think that
Honestly,
actually
I
makes
don't
sense for some of Applechips' earlier turns to try to focus on getting John's life total down. Okay, so that's gonna
I
ultimate.
don't
You're gonna get
entirely
Wyatt
remember
here.
what Wyatt does.
Yeah.
It's been a
Ooh,
while.
look at that Valkyrie warp on
Ooh,
heavy
a
artillery.
war.
That's huge. Wyatt
Sticking
says
the book in
5/5 decay. When you take damage on your turn, draw one of the top two cards, discard the others. Filtering.
Huh.
But
So
now pumping that up
boring.
to a 5 power lifesteal unit on that Deathwing. That was a huge warp. That heavy artillery is such a busted card when you can warp it. Rustcrafter in hand for John, by the way. That's their last card.
You're not entirely sure what to go for here, because okay. And that makes sense so that you still have your ooh, now that's
Silex
an
there.
interaction I didn't
Oh
anticipate.
no. Because
But
of that draw, because of that draw, it revealed a tower off the top, which means he has enough power to warp the tower, get the warp tower value off of that, and get rid of the junkyard.
oh my gosh.
Wow, this has been impressive by John here. And unfortunately for Applechips, they're in top deck mode here, and John has a ton going on. Not only do they have the board value, they also have the weapon, and they have more cards in hand. And they have the active sight. I mean, I haven't done the math, but Applechips might just be on lethal next turn.
Indeed. Especially with yeah. Block, I think you it's not great, but I do think you have to block with a Deathwing here. Otherwise you're taking 12 and facing down like
Yeah, I think you have
and
to.
facing down
Yeah.
heavy artillery that you can't really.
I mean, you're in a tough position either way, but yeah, I think you have to. It's crazy how fast this changes. You know, I think it was one turn ago. We're looking at Applechips counting down John's life total and saying, "Well, can Applechips just win here?" And now it's Applechips on one turn lethal. All right, now a heavy artillery on Applechips' side. Actually, both players have heavy artilleries on the top of their deck. All right, so they're going to warp this heavy artillery. Now, this heavy artillery has deadly, lifesteal, overwhelm, warp. Now we don't have bingo boards yet, everyone. We'll work on that. Maybe next season we'll have some bingo boards. But I feel like a 4 a 4 battle weapon has got to be one of those. Deadly, lifesteal, overwhelm, warp. What do you think?
I mean, is warp really a keyword though? Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That
But
that's
yeah,
for the
still
that's
a
for the judges
fantastic
to decide.
indeed. Okay, so unfortunately here they can't really pick up anything well meaningful with their heavy artillery, otherwise they're just gonna be dead. So
How does that work with the how does that work with the lifesteal? So it deals the 5 right
I'm
away, right?
I'm not sure actually.
I think Yeah, I
Okay.
think I
Heavy
think as
lifesteal.
it hits, it gains the 5. So I think they can
Yep.
survive an attack. But oh yeah, okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yep. So we just saw
Yep,
that. So they
they
stayed at
survived
4.
the
Yep.
attack, but still not in a great position at all. Um, gain some life back with their Deathwing. Very nice. Probably just chump here with one of that. Yep. What's gonna happen next turn? I guess is the question. I would suppose heavy artillery on the Deathwing to stop them gaining any more incidental life, but also because that'll yeah, I don't think knocking off the regen on the reappropriator here through your weapon is particularly helpful. And yeah, okay,
Yeah,
probably
gonna turn that
play
into treasure
say,
trove. Of course,
yep.
can't do that now. Now, can
So
John push through lethal here? Gonna play out the second heavy
ooh,
artillery.
maybe. Ooh. Oh yep, that's lethal. Nice. So oh,
Gonna warp
more,
another tower
more things. Yeah, this is
just for more value.
definitely
And there you go. There's the Ironclad Oath on the Berserk unit. That's gonna be more than enough here. Yeah, John, you can't forget that second mode that you get for free. Trying to just end the match, but you get a second mode off of that.
yes.
And yeah, wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I
It's
feel like this
yeah,
mirror was the match of the warped value here, the warped towers.
indeed. Like we saw how like I guess languid the first few turns were
Hmm.
when they were just like slowly playing out one threat at a time, trading stuff, removal spells with threats, and then as soon as the warped cards start kicking in, they're just